Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic is anti-aging, more specifically, how to live a really long life and be healthy the entire time. And all the information we're going to be talking about today is from this wonderful book, The Great Age Reboot, Cracking the Longevity Code for a Younger Tomorrow. And I'm pleased to say my guest is Dr. Michael Roizen, author of The Great Age Reboot, joining us in studio. Wonderful to see you, Dr. Roizen.
It's great to see you again, because I got to work with you in the past, so it's a privilege.
Yes, I mean, I interviewed you up at the Cleveland Clinic, and you've been a guest here before, and it's so nice to get back into that routine where people are seeing each other in person and traveling.
You know, that's probably the most important thing, is developing a posse and having a purpose in life. And so you get to do both when you get to meet people on set, and it's a privilege.
It is, and you know, you can, what I really love about it is it's so fun to be with people, to have these interpersonal communications, but that's one of the things that you talk about is so great for your health and contributes to longevity. And you know, this book is, I'm not just saying this because you're here, it is one of the best books I've ever read.
Oh, thank you.
It is, every single page has very useful information. And I think the big takeaway for our viewers is, you know, sort of your catchphrase is 90 is the new 40. Well, I love that.
Well, it probably is. So in 1998, when I first was involved in this, it was real age, and we said 60 was likely to be the new 40. That's true. We now expect that 90 will be the new 40 within 10 years. And what do we mean by that? It means old age won't be old. So when you're 90, you're likely not to just slow aging over the next 10 years, but to get a reboot backwards to a younger self. Now, that's hard for us to wrap around. And that's why, you know, it's really why we wrote the book, because it takes people some time to think about it, to plan for it, both financially and in health, and then to actually understand what it means for them and their family.
Yeah, and you know, I really love the fact that you kind of brought up the financial part of it. You are a doctor. We often talk only about health things, but we are also talking about financial health. And when a lot of people retire, when they try to figure out when to retire, they say, oh, I wish I knew when I was going to die, because I want to know if I'll have enough money during retirement. So if you're living to age, you know, 90 or beyond, you know, finances are a big part. And so you really talk about saving, working longer, and really planning to have financial security in old age. But, you know, again, the big takeaway for this is we can live to be very old, but also live to be very healthy in those golden years.
Right.
A lot of people are like, I don't want to live to be 90 if I'm going to be in a wheelchair and if I'm not going to be able to walk or you know, have all these health problems. So the key is living long, but living well at the same time. And that's where all of this great information comes in.
You're exactly right. So if you're going to live to 115, you won't want to retire at 65 and do nothing for 50 years. So you're going to work 20 years longer. That actually solves the Social Security and the Medicare trust funds, which we're worried about them running out, if you will. They won't if this works. And we have 14 shots on goal, meaning there are 14 different areas of research that have been expanding and rebooted animals, at least 2 animal species in each of the 14 areas backwards, so that they will function younger. These are all moving into human trials now. And let me come back to the economics for just a second. It's one of the major stressors if we don't do it right. And so for your grandkids, I'm going to speak right to you now. For your grandkids or kids, if you save 3% of a $15 per hour income and you work to 65 and it grows at 4% a year, it's the law actually in Australia, Singapore, and Denmark, in addition to Social Security and Medicare they have, that grows to $257,000 by age 65. But if you don't touch it to age 95, it's $1.4 million. And if you don't touch it, and it's matched by the company you work with, so the Cleveland Clinic who I work for matches my contributions, it's $2.8 million. So that compounding effect has an enormous benefit. And so that's the middle third of the book is on the financial, both for the individual and for society, and how to get to think about it, because it's so important to think about. And then the last third of the book is what to do now.
Yeah, I love that.
And we got a lot of props here on what to do now.
Yeah, I love that. You know, you talk about the reasons for people living longer. One of them is just the wonderful medical advancements. Those are fantastic. And then the second is the research, the advancements in research that give us information, like epigenetics. I've done stories about this, and so for our viewers who don't remember what epigenetics is, we have these genes, and some of us have some pretty bad genes, like I'll just be honest, I have one of the Alzheimer's genes. Some people have very problematic genes, but you can turn them off based on your behavior. So for Alzheimer's, there are all these things that we can do to sort of suppress.
There are 33 things for dementia, for cognitive dysfunction. There are 33 things that have been shown in at least 2 studies, and some of them are here. I drink coffee.
Yeah,
but,
me too. I pay a lot of attention because that one, that hits home for me, so I'm doing the same things too. And you're talking about things like intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating and exercise, and certain types of things are good for your brain. And you don't have to have one of the Alzheimer's gene to benefit from this, because we all need to work on, you know, keeping our brain as sharp as possible.
And in 10 years, if we make it 10 years, the expectation is gene editing will edit that ApoE4 gene and turn it into an ApoE2. So instead of the ApoE4 gene, increases your risk about 3-fold. So in women, it goes from a 20% risk at age 90 to a 60% risk. But the ApoE2 reduces it to a 10% risk. So the experiments have occurred in animals now where they've taken the ApoE4 and turned it into the ApoE2. And if we do that, instead of a 60% risk, you have a 10% risk. And by doing the other 33 things, you reduce it 90%. So it's a 1 or 2% risk, not a 60% risk.
Right, yeah, it's
huge
fantastic.
benefit.
And so many people have really been dealt a bad hand when it comes to genes. I know someone who has that alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency and has both of those genes, which for many people means death in their 50s if you smoke or drink, because it's a lung and a liver thing. But if people don't smoke or don't drink, they can live longer. But with the gene editing coming down the pike, that's even better news. You can just get rid of the gene altogether.
Right. So when the Human Genome Project started, they expected to find 300,000 genes. They found only 22,500. They caused the rest of the DNA junk DNA. Over the next 8 years, they found it was epigenes. It was switches that you talked about that control which of your genes are on or not. And we now know that 80% of those switches we get to control with our choices. The other 20%, hopefully they'll edit back normal. And that's another one of the areas of advance, that is resetting your epigenes. So the great news is this is happening. It isn't just 10 years in the future. You can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's so exciting. So there are so many things. Actually, my favorite part of the book were the tips that you have on just daily life. There are so many things that we can do in our daily lives that can cause us to live healthy all the way well into old age. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Dr. Roizen and talk about so many of those things. Once again, the book is called The Great Age Reboot. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living, and my guest today is Dr. Michael Roizen, author of the book, The Great Age Reboot. So, you know, so many of us, Dr. Roizen, have seen people who are older and are the same age, and some are doing great, some are not doing great. I was at a wedding recently, 2 women the same age in their mid-80s. One was on the dance floor. She recently married a guy who was 10 years younger than her, and the other was in a wheelchair, and she could, you know, she's got early signs of dementia. She couldn't walk, and, you know, it causes people to think, how does that happen? And a lot of it are these choices that we make every single day, lifestyle choices. And so
That's exactly right.
yeah. And so those of us, you know, and I said to her, you're my role model. Tell me what you did to be so young and vibrant at your age. And she was real modest. She was like, oh, I don't know, it's probably good genes, but I know it's a lot more than that. It's probably a lot of this stuff. And so we always come back to two main things, diet and exercise. And your book is full of information about diet and exercise. Can you kind of go over the highlights?
Yes, so diet is pretty simple. Only eat food you love. So food, you should enjoy it, but only eat food you love that loves your body back. So food is like a marriage. You wouldn't marry someone who is trying to kill you every day. You shouldn't eat food that's trying to kill you. So you may love red meat or French fries, but they're trying to kill you. So what you want to do is find foods. I love blueberries. I love coffee. I love avocados. I love garlic. If you will, I love salmon. So find foods that are good for you that also, if you will, are
love you back.
that you enjoy,
Yeah.
that you love eating.
But, you know,
So-
don't you, I've heard it said before that you eventually start loving food that you eat. And so you sort of, if you think that you don't like salads or you don't like salmon or blueberry, if you start eating it, you'll sort of develop a taste for it.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that true?
I don't know.
Okay,
So
I've
there are a
heard
lot of
that.
things in medicine I
Okay.
don't know or else, but it fits some of my own choices. So probably that's true. You know, I never used to like peas, and now I love them.
Oh, okay. I love them too.
The second thing is exercise. And the key is when you do something that stresses a muscle, it turns on a gene. It's good for your cardiovascular system. So it improves blood flow, decreases heart disease, stroke, memory loss, decreases all of those things. But that's its cardiovascular benefit. But it also turns on some epigenes. So those switches that modify whether your genes are on or not, you turn those on, the good ones on, when you exercise. And that, just to give you one small example, when you stress a muscle, you turn on a gene that makes a small protein called arisen. I'll tell you how we know about that name in a second. That arisen goes to your brain, and it in turn turns on a gene called brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor. All genes do is make proteins. So turns on that gene, makes arisen. Turns on that gene, makes brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor, which grows your hippocampus. It's like miracle grow for your hippocampus. Why is the hippocampus important? Well, it's the only organ in the body that really size matters, because a bigger hippocampus means that you have a better memory and less less chance of brain dysfunction or cognitive dysfunction as you get older. So by exercising, you're turning on a gene that's making it. So there really are four components. One, 10,000 steps a day. You know, it was a Japanese pedometer manufacturer who developed that 10,000, but he was right. It's the place where you decrease breast cancer, you decrease type 2 diabetes, you decrease colon cancer, you decrease heart disease, and it comes down slowly. So 4,000 is better than 6,000, 6,000 better than 8,000. 12,000 doesn't get you any more benefit than 10. That's why 10,000 is that magic number. The second is after you've done that a while, then you want to strengthen your core. One of the easy ways of strengthening your core, and I didn't warn anyone about this, is just standing up from a chair without using
your hands.
Because just think about the muscles you're using, or feel the muscles you use when you do that.
Okay.
That one little exercise.
It's a core strengthening exercise. I love it.
So strengthening your core. So you do it after you've done walking for 10,000 steps. Build gradually. You then do resistance training, and there are, if you will, it's what we call both upper back, lower back, abdominal, inner muscles, and leg muscles. That's all the core is. And by doing that, you build balance as well as strength. Third one is cardiovascular exercise, 20 minutes 3 times a week at 80% of your age-adjusted max. And then to really stress the muscle and get a risen production up, you do the last 2 minutes as a high-intensity interval training, or
HIIT.
I think you do, right, HIIT, or you do 20 seconds every 2 minutes.
Right, right. And I get a little bit of help from Peloton. I've got my gym closed down during the pandemic, so I bought one of these Peloton bikes, and they're wonderful. They have the HIIT classes, and so they kind of tell you when to push 100%. But it's, reading in your book, it is so good for your brain, not to mention your body, to do that. And it's not as bad as it sounds, pushing 100%, because you only do it for 20 seconds, and then you get like a minute and 40 seconds to rest. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with Dr. Michael Roizen talking about how to live long and how to live healthy. The book is called The Great Age Reboot. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we are continuing our discussion with Dr. Michael Roizen, author of the book, The Great Age Reboot. We could go on for 3 hours talking about all the incredible information in the book. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. But, people are probably wondering, what is all this stuff here? And this was really one of the most interesting things that I found in the book, because I've been a medical reporter for 14 years, and this is something that was new to me. And believe me, I'm going to go out and get some creatine right away.
Well, you can get it on online. The good news is, so creatine is used by people 15 to 35 to build their muscles and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you will. And even football players use it because it really does build muscle. But so they started doing studies in people over the age of 70 on can it prevent what we call in medicine sarcopenia, loss of muscle size and function and strength as you get older. And it did. It did. So it prevents frailty or loss of muscle strength as you get older. But they were looking at side effects in the studies because they were doing them in humans. They first did it in animals that were the equivalent age, but then they did it in humans. One of the things they noted in the animals is they ran mazes better. So they then did it in humans, and yes, it actually improved brain functioning too. So who thought that? So this is.
We always think of bodybuilders as dumb, but they're actually probably smarter because of all the creatine.
Right. It's inexpensive. It's about $40 for a 6-month supply. And you put a teaspoon. So the first time I eat food every day is at around 11 a.m. And so the first thing I eat in a 7 or 8 hour window. So the first thing you do is I put a teaspoon of that, which is 4,000 milligrams, in a cup of coffee. Doesn't change the taste.
Yeah.
And you get the benefit of both the coffee and of that.
I love the fact that coffee is really good for you too. So you don't have to take the amount that the bodybuilders take. Just a teaspoon a day is okay.
Well, most of the bodybuilders, the data on bodybuilding actually is the maximum benefit they get is from 4 grams too.
Good.
So if they take 2 tablespoons, a lot more,
it comes out.
There's no benefit.
Yeah, all right, that's
no
good to
additional
know.
benefit.
So you were talking about your I call it intermittent fasting. You call it time
restricted eating.
I also do that too. I eat between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day, and so that's
even smarter than I do.
Well, I've interviewed a lot of the Alzheimer's experts, and they say the goal is to eat once a day. That's pretty ambitious. So, the smaller the window, the better. So 6 hours is about all I can do in a normal day.
And in fact, the real data is if you do 5 days a month, if you only have to do 5 days a quarter, once every 3 months, mark the 5 days of 750 calories a day, and you reset every one of the genes that have been looked at back to a youthful area. So that's really a secret, 750 calories. There's a soup recipe they did with the graduate students first in the book. So it's pretty easy. You'll get tired of tomato-based soup if you follow that by the 4th or 5th day, but it's really easy to do.
Yeah.
So once every 3 months, if you're healthy, once you get disease, once a month is what it's advocated for, and it resets. It's actually good for recovery from breast cancer. That's where it's been studied most, is it prevents recurrences over the 3-year period it's been studied in. And the other things here are also beneficial. So olive oil, tablespoon and a half a day of extra virgin olive oil, either in place of other fats or as the cooking fat, or in addition, helps your brain as well. So do blueberries, if you will, and it's an ounce of blueberries a day, or walnuts.
Yeah, wonderful. We're going to take another quick break and be right back with Dr. Roizen, and we'll talk more about some of the ways that you can stay healthy longer. Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Michael Roizen, author of the book, The Great Age Reboot. And unfortunately, we only have about a minute and a half left. Wanted to talk about scents, and a lot of people are looking at this thinking, what is this about? You know, the wonderful aroma of coffee and rosemary. Why is it so good to smell things that have wonderful fragrance?
It prevents brain dysfunction too. So 4 different smells a day, every day, somehow prevents brain dysfunction. We don't know how, but it does, and it's consistent. And if you don't like the smells, you get one of these.
These are really wonderful. These are like little packets that you can open up and smell them, and they have a lot of different uses.
They last about a year.
They're wonderful. And so and if you want more information about this, go to here, to the book, to read all this in the book. I wish we had more time to talk about everything else, the importance of a blood pressure monitor, knowing your blood pressure, treating your blood pressure.
One thing I want to, posse and purpose are the most important things in preventing stress, and that's the most important thing to do. So I appreciate us being friends, part of the posse.
Absolutely. Those interpersonal relationships. So get out of your basement, pandemic people. Where can people find out more information about you and your book?
At greatagereboot.com. There's even an accompanying app that keeps it up to date because the science keeps improving, if you will. So greatagereboot.com.
All right. Well, Dr. Roizen, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you always for your work and for the book. It's going to help so many people, I'm sure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for tuning into this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.